what is going on at the cellular level that we should be concerned about, and how much influence or even control do we have on that process, those processes, I should say?
Well, I think one of the areas on the cellular level that we all need to think about is how our cells function is really based on the energy that the cells have. The mitochondria are there to produce the energy and keep the cells functioning. And if the cells function well, the tissues that the cells are incorporated in are then functioning well. And then your body functions well, whether it's your muscle, whether it's your brain, your liver. Mitochondria are basically in all of our cells except for our red blood cells. Hi, my name is Chris Rinsch, and I'm the CEO and a co-founder of Timeline Nutrition. And today here on Ever Forward Radio, we're going to talk about how you can supercharge your mitochondria function and add 10% of muscle strength after 4 months, and which really translates into a meaningful impact in your life, in your livelihood, and your health span, and longevity in the end. Looking forward to share all this with you.
So in preparation for this conversation, I was thinking of all the things that I think of when it comes to what we're about to talk about, and just so many keywords I want the listener to really think of right now. Resiliency, strength, longevity, hypertrophy, atrophy, sarcopenia, powerhouse of the cell, mitochondria, just all of these words that I think a lot of us can find when we're looking for health, wellness, optimization, tips, tricks, especially when it comes to nutrition. And especially right now, I think resiliency and longevity are kind of on the rise in a good way. Top of mind for a lot of people, especially myself included. But also, I think now we finally have a lot of science. We have a lot of anecdotal and clinical evidence to provide fact and relatable tactics for us humans to implement these things now and to add meaningful quality years of life to our existence. So with all of that, a little preparation for everybody here on the show. Chris, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Did I miss any key words in what we're here to talk about and what you do?
I think you hit a lot of.
There's got to be something I'm missing, right? Krebs cycle, maybe. I don't know. ATP. I really got to go back to my exercise science days for that. But first and foremost, before we kind of get into maybe some of the scientific understanding and applications, longevity, resiliency, what does that mean, and why is it important? Why should someone even care about that right now? The general person.
Yeah, I think when you think of longevity, I think you're talking about quality of life, and I think that's what's important for everybody. People want to live, at their peak throughout their life, and they don't want to have that slow decline as you get older. And so, if you can try and maintain that health, on a cellular level, on a whole body level, then I think you're going to have a much more enjoyable time on Earth.
Yeah. You said like the key phrase there that I think is the whole crux of this, at the cellular level. What is going on at the cellular level that we should be concerned about, and how much influence or even control do we have on that process, those processes, I should say?
Well, I think one of the areas on the cellular level that we all need to think about is how our cells function is really based on the energy that the cells have. And you have your mitochondria that are inside of your cells that are producing most of the energy that the cells need.
The powerhouse of the cell I was talking about.
Yeah.
Anybody went through, I think, probably even middle school science should be familiar with this term.
Yeah, the biology from when we were back in school. It's the mitochondria are there to produce the energy and keep the cells functioning. And if the cells function well, the tissues that the cells are incorporated in are then functioning well, and then your body functions well, whether it's your muscle, whether it's your brain, your liver. Mitochondria are basically in all of our cells except for our red blood cells.
So there's this thing inside every system, every location of our body that we can have direct influence and even dominion over. Am I understanding correctly?
Yes. I think when you're talking about influencing, it's, how can you influence it? And there's different ways of influencing your cellular health and in particular the mitochondrial function. And one is just through lifestyle choices. So exercise, by doing regular exercise, you stimulate a process by which you're keeping your mitochondrial healthy. And we'll go into that a little bit later. Also diet, having the right foods that you eat, you're going to get the right nutrients that are coming from those foods. And these phytonutrients that are coming from the foods can then have an impact on your cells and on the cell functioning.
Let's first go with the physical aspect. What can we do to improve our bodies at the cellular level? We all know, or at least at this point, anybody listening to the show for a while, but in doing that, we're also affecting what's going on at the cellular level, the mitochondrial level. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yes. So when you exercise, you stimulate a process inside of your cells that's called autophagy. And so this process, autophagy, which is self-eating, autophagy, this is all about clearing up the damaged organelles, which are basically all of the things that are inside of your cell that are getting damaged.
The cellular waste, right?
Yes, the cellular
byproducts
waste.
Of these
exactly.
Systems, yeah.
It's transforming that waste and it's disposing of it and it's recycling it. And in particular, we were talking about the mitochondria before. A process called mitophagy, so the self-eating or self-digestion of damaged mitochondria, plays a very important role in keeping your mitochondria healthy inside of your cells throughout your life. And when you exercise, it's been shown that exercise is actually stimulating the process of autophagy and also mitophagy.
Now, why should we care about that? Why is that a good thing, and why is that something maybe we should latch on to try to keep repeating?
Well, fundamentally, if you're exercising, you're building more muscle function, and by maintaining that muscle function in the mitochondria function, it's not only the mitochondria in your muscle cells that are being improved, but it's in all of your other organs. And so exercise isn't only for your muscles, it's for your entire body, and it's a whole body wellness program.
And so then what about the nutritional aspect? So we can go do the things, lift the weights, do the resistance training, exercise to stimulate mitochondrial health, reproduction. But what about the nutrition aspect? And I know this is a big part of kind of your work in the study.
Yeah. So when you think about nutrition, there are certain phytochemicals that actually can act specifically on the mitochondria and stimulate this process called mitophagy. So at Timeline, we've been really working and looking at a class of compounds called the elagitannins. And these are compounds found in a number of the foods that we eat that include pomegranate, walnuts, pecans, and other berries such as raspberry and strawberries to different amounts. And when you consume these elagitannins, these foods, they're actually transformed by the gut microbes that we have, and they're transformed into other compounds that are called postbiotics. And so these postbiotics, and in the case of elagitannins, this postbiotic is called Urolithin A. This compound acts to stimulate this process of mitophagy inside of your cells. So it's very complementary to having a very active lifestyle and doing exercise on a regular basis.
But here's something that I think the listener should really lean into, and was a great reminder for me and kind of refreshing myself on these processes and what mitochondrial health actually looks like, and especially with all the amazing clinical evidence and research that you all have provided. I'll have to make sure to link a lot of this stuff for you guys down in the show notes. Sometimes just making, I I don't want to say this and discourage anybody, but on our wellness journey of making the right decisions, or what we believe to be the right decision, it's like, okay, I'm going to make the choice to clean up my diet. I'm going to eat these things that I know are healthy for me. Like you were talking about, pomegranates, walnuts, raspberries, that have so many great functions for us. But if we don't have the right environment in here, in the gut, it's kind of like, I won't say all for nothing, but we're really missing an opportunity, right? So can you walk us through why maybe just eating some of these right foods, or even, in something such as Mitopure, it might not be enough, because we actually have some more work to do to really clean up the environment, to be more bioavailable, to increase absorption. Really, we need to work on the gut powerhouse first, right? In order for this stuff to mash up as much as we want.
For sure. So when you're thinking of all of these foods, as you mentioned, that contain the compounds elagitannins, these elagitannins are only transformed into urolithin A and Mitopure if you have the right gut microbes. And if you don't have them, which only about 30 to 40% of the population have the right gut microbes to make this transformation. We ran a clinical study in Chicago, and we showed that there was around 40% that could do a conversion. And what's fascinating is that it's not just a one-to-one conversion. There can be people who can be low converters or medium converters or high converters. So it's very unpredictable. So you can eat all these foods that have the right things in them, but in fact, if you don't have the right gut microbiome, the right bacteria, essentially you can't extract the benefits from that. And so if you can overcome that by, instead of taking those foods, I'm not suggesting that people don't eat the foods, all these great foods. But if you can take a supplement just of the postbiotic, in this case, urolithin A, and that we call Mitopure at Timeline.
Urolithin A is a postbiotic?
Urolithin A is a postbiotic.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you take urolithin A directly, then you overcome the problem and that hurdle that you might not have that right gut microbiome and the right bacteria to make those transformations. And so it's a very interesting way to look at the foods that you're eating, and what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat, and when you should supplement beyond just a healthy diet.
The analogy comes to mind of, like, we buy a piece of furniture, right? And we see the end result, like on the showroom floor or in the picture, and we have all the hardware and pieces. We could probably maybe do a decent job or get pretty close to assembling it just by kind of tinkering on our own. But what I'm kind of hearing is like this bridge connector, this Mitopure, this, the urolithin A, or even just a lot of, the other 60% of this population is like, we're missing the instructions, and getting these instructions is crucial for not only having something that's going to last, here we go, longevity again, because you can assemble something, but it might fall apart in a week, or the first time you try to sit in that chair, it's going to come crumbling down. How much more fortified and resilient is that product going to be if you've got the right end result you're looking at, the proper instructions to put which screw in which hole, and then the right tools to do it all together?
For sure. I mean, having, and that's the beauty of being able to take a nutrient, in this case, a postbiotic of urolithin A directly. You can circumvent all of that problem. And I think most importantly is understanding how much you need to give to have that specific health benefit. Because when you when you consume different foods, you're not sure how you're dosing. Right, yeah. Because you don't know what type of gut micro flora you have. And so what we've done is we've taken a look at the clinical level, taking Mitopure and urolithin A into the clinic and testing it at different doses to see specifically how much do we need to give in order to see a benefit.
So we've been saying this word quite a bit, but haven't gotten an actual definition. So I want to kind of backtrack just a minute and say,
Sure.
Mitochondria, what is that? Like, what is a mitochondria? What does it do in the body? And again, why should the average person really have this on their radar right now?
Well, mitochondria are super important for all of our cells. They're basically they're the power plant of the cell, as you were mentioning before, and creating the energy that you need for the cells to function properly, and all of the reactions that need to take place inside of the cell, and this is what makes them so important. So what you see is, and I think what's interesting is when you look at during the aging process, mitochondria decline in function, and that's very well known, and it's been studied. In fact, we even performed a study many years ago where we looked at a population that was an average age of 70 years old, and in the population we had one group of adults who were very active and running and cycling all the time, another group of adults age matched who were pretty frail, which means that they have problems, getting around.
Normal daily bodily functions.
Yeah, standing up, walking, and we went and we looked at these individuals, and we did an analysis of their muscle tissue in their legs. And what we saw, the big difference between these two populations was a decline in the mitochondrial function in those people who were pre-frail. And it was very striking. When you looked at the gene sets in muscle biopsies of these individuals, you could see that all the gene sets that were linked to mitochondria function were all downregulated, and showing that this was really a very important building block for the health of your cells and your muscle.
It's pretty cool to think about what I'm hearing. Please correct me if I'm wrong. As we age, and hitting 70, I think that's a landmark decade for anybody, but also probably an age when you begin to kind of realize, like, I'm definitely getting older. I'm kind of over the hill, I guess, a little bit. But it's probably more likely that we can do things to maintain the mitochondrial health that we have, and to make the ones that we do have stronger, better at what they do, and to maybe even increase the quantity and quality of mitochondria we have, so that we are more resilient, so that we're able to maintain strength, and not atrophy and not have muscle mass kind of really wither away, compared to being in our 70s and trying to still hit the gym the same frequency. What I'm trying to really get at is there's this new way of thinking we can have now, thanks to timeline and the research and all this understanding of mitochondrial health, that, if I just take care of myself at the cellular level, I can maintain and maybe even grow in ways that I want to have down the road, instead of trying to think about how am I going to be 75 years old and still going to the gym all the time so I can keep a little bit of muscle mass so that I'm not frail and falling and breaking a hip, or being able to just stay active with my children or family, So, am I right in thinking that it's kind of like this new way we can really get the same thing we want, but with just a different approach?
For sure. And I think it's important that we don't focus on, on the age of 70 and 80. But this is really, your mitochondria function is important at all stages of your life. And if you don't have the right diet and the right lifestyle, you can have poor mitochondrial function when you're in your 20s or 30s. And so,
what would that look like, for example? Or what would that look like? What would that feel like?
Well, you see a lot of people who are more on the couch potato side of
sedentary lifestyle.
Sedentary, that these people tend to have a mitochondria function very at a suboptimal level, and so. And even athletes, have been taking Mitopure and Urolithin A and showing that this improves their muscle function. So it's not something just to protect you as you get old, but it's something for to keep you at your peak at every stage in your life. In fact, we've run a couple of clinical studies to date. We have one study that we looked in sedentary individuals from 40 to 65 years old, and we saw that we had an improved muscle leg strength and peak VO2.
Just with this supplementation.
Just taking supplementation with Mitopure.
An increase in strength, not necessarily muscle. We're not talking muscle mass. We're not talking muscle size.
No, this is not building muscle mass.
This is not hypertrophy.
Yeah, it's basically taking the muscle tissue that you have and making it function at its peak. And which is,
that's the best. That's the goal, right?
And that's the goal, and that's what we want throughout life. Even as we get older, we will lose muscle mass, and that's well documented.
It's harder to maintain what you worked for before,
and it's very hard to maintain. But if you can take whatever tissue that you have and keep it functioning optimally, that's really what we want. And so, back to the demographics of sort of the 20 to 40, we're running a clinical study over in Australia looking at professional and semi-professional athletes and runners and evaluating the effect of Mitopure in them as they do races and looking at effects on recovery. And we've seen a lot of, and that work will come out this next year. We also have a lot of customers who are athletes, whether they're professional athletes or amateur athletes. And it's very interesting to get the feedback from them, whether they're cyclists and, they come back and they tell us, hey, I used to be in the center of the peloton and now I'm at the front. It's very interesting to get the individual stories that each one brings to us.
I'm kind of in a funny position right now, which is even weird this isn't a complaint by any means, but just the fact that I'm 37 now, and I'm someone that has lived a very active lifestyle ever since I was a kid. But I would say true, consistent exercise, strength training particularly, about 17 years. So I've done a lot of things. I've really gotten in tune with my body, and I can tell what works, what doesn't. And I'm on month 2 now. I'd say about week 6 going into 7-ish, something like that, of Mitopure. And it ultimately is kind of like taking away some of those just very quick, typical excuses that I used to make for myself of I'm tired, I'm sore, I need to recover more from my last workout because no bullshit, like my endurance, my needed downtime is much less than what it used to be. I feel like in between my sets, in between my workouts, and in between active days, active recovery days, and total rest days, that dip is just noticeably less. Yeah. And for someone like myself to notice that, I'm by no means a high-performing athlete. I'm not an Olympic or professional sports player or anything like that, a professional Olympian. But I am someone that does a lot of things with intention to feel good. Yeah. And to add, hopefully, quality years to my life. And so I say all that just to kind of share my personal experience, but also even just that little bit of the less dip in the downtime has done so much for my mindset and going like, okay, Chase, you actually know you don't have an excuse here because you're not sore. You don't need as much downtime. And I can qualitatively and quantitatively kind of get into my own body and mind and think about where I'm at and, look at data points such as Whoop and Apple Watch and stuff like that. Yeah. And it all matches up. It all matches up.
Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, people who are more in tune with their body because they're exercising and they're monitoring themselves with Whoop and other types of devices, they tend to see the effect easier because they can sense just a couple of % difference in performance, especially recovery. Recovery tends to be something that people that people notice, and this is one area that we're studying in this clinical study that's ongoing in Australia right now.
I mean, it makes total sense because when you think about it, if we're doing something, we're able to manipulate something in our lives with what we're doing or what we're eating that is going to substantially, clinically proven to increase not only the rate at which certain processes in our body can perform, but the quality in which they can also perform. Where it's like we're not only increasing the way that workers in our bodies can do the work, but also it's like replicating. It's like we got 10 workers in this cell doing great things, which yield X output, but we're adding 15 workers, 20 workers, 30 workers. So you're increasing efficacy, but also the quantity, which makes total sense. If that is responsible, those guys, mitochondria, are responsible for every process, including training, recovery, sleep, hypertrophy, all these things what we're talking about. I mean, it's so duh. It's so duh that, of course, all these other things, the downtime, the recovery go down, and, the ability to kind of bounce back goes up.
Yeah. And I think what's great is that we have the science to back it up. It's not, this is not soft science, I would say. This is very extensively studied in double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled studies. And in the studies I was mentioning, in the 40 to 65, and then we had a study in 65 and older. In these studies, we were very careful to establish groups and randomize appropriately and give the right dose for, we had in one study that we looked at the 40 to 65, we tested doses of 500 milligrams and 1 gram over a course of 4 months. And we were able to monitor, the levels of Mitopure in the blood throughout the study to see that those people who had been taking it consistently. Those people who were on placebo had nothing. And we looked at mitochondrial function not only from the effects of the physiological function of the muscle, but we performed muscle biopsies before and after. So people coming into the studies, we would take a muscle biopsy, and then at the end of the study, we'd take a muscle biopsy. We'd also take blood draws throughout the study. And we looked at biomarkers. Both in the muscle biopsies, we were looking at genetic biomarkers, so gene expression of mitochondrial genes. And what we saw was an increase in the gene expression of these various mitochondrial genes.
What does that mean exactly?
And so what that means is that you have an increased expression of the genes and then consequently the proteins that are responsible for making a functioning mitochondria.
So it's like, we know these things are there, the genes are there, but now this is kind of like activating it. It's like,
you're
10xing it kind of thing. Yes. It's like really obvious to the other systems in the body. Hey, here I am, use me appropriately.
Well, it's maybe not 10xing the gene expression, but
a little bit more. 10x would be great, right?
Yeah. So, but what's fascinating is that you see the ensemble of all of these genes. What they have when you analyze and this starts to get kind of nerdy here, but when you analyze the gene expression in tissue biopsies, basically you have a list of genes that are appropriate for one type of functioning. In this case, it's mitochondria functioning, and so you have they call them gene sets. So you look at the ensemble of all the genes that are linked to mitochondrial function, and you can see that you're actually, improving and increasing the amount of mitochondria. Because when you have an upregulation, it's also a signal that you've increased the total number of mitochondria.
Oh, wow, amazing.
Yeah, and so then we've also looked at blood biomarkers, and an important one that we monitor is acylcarnitins, and as you improve in your mitochondrial function, acylcarnitin levels decline, and this is something that we see consistently across our studies.
Yeah, which I'm very excited to go into next. Personally, I'm like, I'm always this N equals 1, right? That's something I always try to drive home with my listeners is, be a self-study, do these things, take awareness of your body, where you are, get your baseline, understand your why, develop your own personal goals, and then, take action, but then measure along the way quantitatively through hard data points, such as maybe a wearable, but also labs, your physical, metabolic health, but then qualitatively too, lean into and get better at listening to your body and how you feel about certain things. Like I said, I'm about month 2 with Mitopure, and I'm also coming up on my next round. This year, especially 2022, I've done a lot of different labs, different metabolic testing, genetic testing. I'm really going, peeling back the layers because I'm just trying to, that 1% more, 1% more. And so I'm really excited to see, I've got my next round of labs coming up in, I think, 2 weeks to get this feedback now being on 2 months of Mitopure, which in my own research, of your research, there is substantial clinical evidence showing significant improvements after just week 4, month 1.
Right.
Then it's that month 3 mark, I think, is where you all see the most kind of progress or change, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, we've had 3 studies that we've published, and in the first study, we gave participants Mitopure for 1 month, and we looked at the biomarkers, and we saw the improvement in biomarkers after as early as 1 month. And then in the second 2 studies that we published, we looked at, we gave people Mitopure for a period of 4 months, and in one of the studies we looked after 4 months and we saw the improvement of muscle strength. And this is in that 40 to 65.
Please say that again. Guys, listen, pay attention to this guy. This is huge.
Yeah. So I think it's important, you can take a product, a supplement, in this case, Mitopure, for 4 months, and you improve your muscle strength. And these are sedentary individuals who are not exercising. And we improve muscle strength by 10%. So this is a very measurable improvement.
Who wouldn't want to take a 10% muscle strength increase?
Yeah.
To go from 0 to 10%, huge.
Yeah.
But then to go from wherever, like myself or the listener right now who is active, they say you're running like 80%. Who wouldn't want to go to 90%?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. And then we've shown even after 2 months that we improve muscle endurance. And this was in the study that I had mentioned from the 65 and older population. So back to your question of how long does it take to see actual measurable or to feel a measurable improvement? It may be as early as 1 month, certainly 2 months. We start to see physiological effects, and 4 months we see clear effects on muscle strength.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's it. Just gets me lit up talking about this stuff. But I also want to kind of expand a little bit because I think right now where we are, at least in the United States, maybe you can shine a global light on this. I think the last few years has kind of done one or two things for the general public. Due to the pandemic and due to just the way the world has kind of shifted around the last couple of years, I think there have been a lot of people, due to different circumstances, of course, have become much more sedentary and have maybe gone from an active lifestyle to just less active. But that less active lifestyle for them means putting on fat, decreasing muscle. And for other people, I think we've had, the other option here is we've had this awakening of like how really important your health and wellness is to you and how important strength is to you. And, we unfortunately have probably seen people get sick and even pass away. And so we've kind of been jarred awake of, I have the ability, I have the power. First and foremost, I have the choice to take action in my life and in my health. I want to speak to the first group that I'm, again, just making up here, my own kind of observation. When we're talking to them, there's a lot of power in what you're saying. Just being a sedentary person, a very simple interjection to a habit, to a supplement, to a part of your nutrition can take you from maybe how far you've fallen to a 10% increase in a month.
Yeah. In this case, it's 4 months after 4 months. Yeah. But I think it's important, when you,
it's the most important.
You see not only an increase in muscle function, but many people feel an increase in in energy levels too.
Oh, yeah.
And back to your N of 1, I mean, I can speak for myself that I feel a big boost in energy when I take this. So, and I think that, as you were saying earlier, when you have that increase in energy, you feel like you can do more. And so that helps also in terms of the exercise. It gets people more motivated. At least that would be my feeling.
That's, I think, such a powerful takeaway. If we all were at a place in just a matter of a few weeks to have more energy, and I'm not talking slamming down more coffee or anything else. I'm talking your body is not only more efficient at generating energy from the start, but it has more energy production powerhouses, these mitochondria we're talking about, to do just like, imagine what you could do with that.
Yeah. We like to call it energy 2.0.
Yeah. There's no debt to pay here.
Yeah, it's this is not like caffeine that gives an instant excitement, but it's really at the cellular level, making your cells function better and just perform optimally.
Okay, so I want to jump ahead a little bit. Most of my audience, I'm in my late 30s now. Most of my audience, I think, we're late 20s, 30s, or 40s. What could this do for somebody 50s, 60s, 70s who is maybe double my age? Is it like I'm going to slow down the aging process, or I'm just going to maybe not feel my age as much? Is there a point of no return kind of thing when it comes to the our biological age and what we can do to maybe slow down or just get that energy we're talking about?
Well, as you're getting older in your 50s, 60s, 70s, I think that what people want to do is remain active and keep a high level of continue to to engage in sports activities and not feel like they're limited because of their age. And
not feel their age.
Yeah, people. I think everybody in their minds, no matter what age they are, they feel like they're in their 20s or 30s. Right?
Oh, I'm still battling with disbelief of like, there's no way you're 37. There's no way. It's just
right.
Because I feel so damn good.
Exactly.
Thankfully so. Knock on wood.
Yeah. So but then the reality of life hits that when you try to go running or playing soccer or whatever, you experience a different performance.
Then reality hits.
20, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really where this whole idea of longevity is really linked to this idea of health span. That you want to keep as healthy as you can throughout your life, and then at the end, you just it's better just to
What's the phrase? Die late or die as young as possible kind of thing. I want to live as long as possible.
Live as long as possible, then die.
Yeah. Doing hopefully something I'm loving, or just that's what I keep going back to here. Longevity for me means quality. It means quality of life, being able to maintain a lot of the things and practices and rituals, and experiences that I do now in my late 30s, in 60s, 70s, 80s. I joke with my wife. I tell her I'm going to be at least 115 years old. Not only that, I'm going to be 115 and wiping my own ass. That's what I'm after. If I lose that, then maybe it's time for me to go. But I do believe with a lot of just basic mindset hacks, just basic choices we can make in our day-to-day life, even just one choice compounded daily that is in alignment with a wellness goal you have, that is in a positive direction for your life. You do that for a month, a year, 10 years. Don't tell me that's not going to roll over into something else.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. It's really a mindset. The other day I was speaking with a gentleman who was 75 years old and running a company, and he'd been running it for a few decades, and he was very, very fit. And we were talking, and he said, "Well, I still have a 30-year plan." And I said, "My goodness, That's amazing.
That's what I'm talking about.
And you want that type of mindset.
Yeah.
And you have different phases throughout your life, and you want to be able to make these long-term plans, and you don't want to feel limited by the function of your own body.
Someone like yourself who is, I mean, this is literally your life, your business, and you're in the science, and you're in the trenches, kind of helping people like us understand it better, but then also apply it. What is something maybe unique in this world of longevity and mitochondrial health that you are maybe the most excited about right now that you can shine a light on? No spoiler alerts if you guys got any like new breaking evidence science coming out, but also maybe something based on what you're most excited about and based on what you're seeing in the progression of mitochondrial health, understand education and application, that you maybe are getting hopeful about in a new way, like, oh, this is just a springboard to the next thing.
Well, it's a good point. When I think of, when we talk about urolithin A and mitochondrial health, urolithin A is the only nutrient postbiotic that I'm aware of that stimulates this whole process of mitophagy and recycling mitochondria. And there's been a growing number of scientists around the world that have been working with urolithin A in their own labs independently on a number of different health indications. And we start to see more and more publications coming out showing the importance of mitochondrial function and by improving mitochondrial function, how we can impact various organs and tissues. And, there have been a number of third parties who in mice have shown that urolithin A acts in various neurodegenerative models, for example.
Really?
Now,
Wow.
I don't claim that this translates to human, but what's exciting is that we're seeing that, it gets, at least in rodent models, that it gets into the brain, and that's something that's very exciting for us. We're starting to think about, potential brain health applications as well. Does it, and translating that to see if there's, how that would work into humans. And that's something that we'll be exploring in the future. Another area that's of big interest and certainly the last few years of interest for most people is immune health. And so recently one of our collaborators published in the journal Immunity showing the impact of urolithin A on immune health, and they did this in a number of animal models of cancer, and they showed an improvement in colorectal cancer in mouse models. So we're very interested in, and they dug deeper and they looked at the impact on specific immune cells, and so and by improving the mitochondrial function and by stimulating.
Immune cells have mitochondria, right?
Exactly.
There we go. Yeah.
All of our cells, as I said, except for the red blood cells, have mitochondria. So if you can improve the functioning of your immune cells, you can improve the functioning of your immune system as well. And so this is an area that's very interesting to us, and we have a clinical trial planned for this next year to explore this. So very excited about that, looking at just purely the effect on the mitochondrial function of human immune cells after taking Mitopure orally.
Damn. Two things in there for me. One, to highlight the first component you were talking about when it comes to neurodegenerative diseases, immediately hit home for me. My father passed away from ALS almost 18 years ago now. Ever forward was his mantra. Like everything I'm doing here today is because of him. And so in the back of my mind, quick little like medical history with Chase, I guess, is, I think for a lot of people too can relate to this. When we have a loved one or a friend unfortunately pass away, or someone gets sick, or ourselves, we get sick or we get injured, we suffer in some kind of way. I think fear can be a great catalyst for change, for I'm taking my life back. I'm taking my health back. I will never be a diabetic. I will never, as much as we like to think that, what is it? Man laughs or man plans and God laughs, right? But we do a lot of things to hopefully thwart those health concerns. And definitely, this is why longevity is so important to me in the back of my mind, and especially brain health. All these things that I'm like, well, I know it's not hereditary, but it can happen. And so a neurodegenerative disease is something that's really a fear driver for me in a lot of the health things that I do. So if I can do things that I feel, but also clinically are proven to add quality years to my life potentially, and all this new science and evidence is showing that we might see some spillover to that's enough for me personally to go, I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I think it's very fascinating, the potential that improving mitochondria function can have on various organ systems. And we're talking about the brain. Brain is kind of the final frontier in biology and medicine. And
God bless Huberman for making the brain cool again.
And if you can improve mitochondrial function, mitochondrial function has been linked to in the brain has been linked not only to neurodegenerative diseases. It's been linked to various stress conditions. When people are stressed, you see a decrease in mitochondrial function, and
it all matters, people. It all matters.
And having better mitochondria makes people more resistant to these challenges like stress. So that'll be very interesting to study that. Of course, we can't say.
If you want to put me in a longitudinal study for neurodegenerative diseases with Mitopure, I'm all in. Seriously. But my second point, to go back to wrap up my first one, which you kind of just hit on as well, this spillover effect to improving systems in our body. The immune system, which again, I think a lot of us I use diabetes as an example. Okay, I'm going to target my metabolic health. I'm going to lower carbs, lower sugar, and in doing so, we make progress towards that goal, and again, hopefully thwart that chronic illness or disease or injury. But there is a major spillover effect, and we're making one system, one area of our body better, but that then in turn makes multiple other systems and areas of our body healthy. So it's like, why wouldn't we want to just target the thing that is in every system, in every body, mitochondria?
Yeah, and you're spot on. I mean, I think when you think of supplementation to improve your body at the lowest level, the cellular function, I think is best to start with improving your mitochondrial function. You get the engines of your cells revving up and functioning at their peak. Then you can start adding in other nutrients that can then bring them to another level as well, and be complementary.
It's like I'm making every mitochondria I have a freaking Ferrari. It's revving high and it can go, and then also it's like replicating. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, as we kind of get towards the end here, and Chris, I just want to acknowledge you and your work and everything that you all have been doing at Timeline with Mitopure, and I'm gonna butcher Amazentis. Amazentis, excuse me. Say that 5 times fast, everybody. This is what I love most about people like you, is you have found something that adds value to your life. You didn't stop there. You took it a step further and created education, products, services around it. In your case, products and education. But one thing I really want to let the listener know, and as we're recording this, Timeline, I started partnering with you all because I found such immense value in the product, and I have been using it for many weeks before I brought it out here to the show. Is that you all waited, I think it was close to like a decade, years before you brought something to market because you wanted to make sure that the science was there. And I really acknowledge that so much, and you and the team and everybody, that you went years into the science here to make sure that you had something that was going to help people, but more importantly, not hurt us and be accurate. So seriously, hats off to you guys.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I think that's an important thing to stress, is just the safety behind Mitopure. We've done so many studies. It's gone through the whole FDA GRAS process, and the number of people that have taken it now with no no adverse effects that have been reported, and the very carefully controlled clinical studies that we've done has shown that safety. And as you said, Chase, that we've spent quite a lot of time studying the
clinical
biology.
Studies are not cheap either.
No, they're very expensive. It's, this has been over 10 years. And in fact, the company has just been around for now close to 15 years.
Wow.
And we've really focused on building up the science behind Mitopure, really understanding how it works at the cellular level and how it translates to humans. And this is a process that's is not quick. Biology, studying biology and translating that biology from preclinical, from mice, and showing you can improve mice health to human health is a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but
and we have a great team that's done that.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say on that, it's also very meaningful to me, and I'm sure people can relate. It's like something might be of interest to us and we believe in it, but when we look to people, our peers, our friends, and they're also doing it, even people that like this is your job. I've talked to Gabrielle Lyon, Max Lugavere, Mark Hyman, my buddy Ben Smith, trainer here in LA, have all been on this Mitopure game for a little while now. And so I'm just like, okay, all right, cool. Like when the people that you look to, for source information like this and spreading the good word, so to speak, again, that's very meaningful to me. Especially somebody like Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, the most probably no bullshit person I've ever met when it comes to health and science. She's all about it. I'm all about it too. So one other area I definitely want to hit home on, and I know is some new for you all, and it got me curious as well. When we think mitochondria, we think about a lot of these internal health changes, right? Well, there's a way externally to kind of stimulate an internal change as well.
Yeah, for sure, Jason. One of the things that we've done recently is starting to look at the effect of Mitopure when applied topically on the skin. And that led us to the idea of let's come up with a skin cream and a regimen that people can apply to their face that will help keep their face younger and add longevity to the cells in your skin. And so that's what we started doing about a year ago. We started studying this and then developing skin creams, and
we have mitochondria on our face.
Yeah, we
got it everywhere, right?
We have mitochondria inside of all of our cells and in our skin cells too. And what we've seen is that that with Mitopure we can address a couple of the issues that we're dealing with as we get older and aging. And so there's the extrinsic effects of aging, which that is all the UV light, the smoke, and that we are exposed to on a daily basis.
Oh, the wind, just
the wind. I mean, you see
smog. Living in a big city like LA here.
Yeah. You get constantly bombarded by UV light, and this has an impact, and this accelerates the aging of our skin. And then there's the intrinsic aging, which is the natural aging of our cells. We were talking about the mitochondria effects, and so together these are both very important.
You're hitting it on both spectrums, really. Yeah.
And so we've been looking at the effect of skin creams that contain Mitopure and how that can impact the look of the face and the impact after being exposed to UV light. And we've shown some very interesting effects, and it's very I would say first of all it's very safe when it's applied to the skin, so that's great because
that's a plus.
Yeah. Well, I mean and safety is always important. It's safe when you consume it orally, so that's probably the biggest torture test for any type of nutrient. And then what we see is that we're able to impact in a positive way and reduce inflammation on the skin post exposure to UV light, and we also see a decline in wrinkles. So it's hitting on those sort of the intrinsic and the extrinsic pathways of aging it's very interesting in terms of taking a new approach to skin aging and to skin health. And I think we need to be thinking about how do we because we can maintain our body. We want to live our best, and then we want to look our best. And I think combining both is a great approach.
Oh yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I'm of the same belief system. I not only want to feel my best for as long as possible, I want to look my best as long as possible. And there's also this great concept here of, typically what we see on the outside of the body is a reflection in some way what's going on internally. So why wouldn't we want to, treat both? And also, what I mean by that really is, the skin is our largest organ. And so what goes on it goes in it. Yeah. And so, I mean, I love that you guys are kind of hitting this on both sides of the coin.
Yeah. No, so it's very exciting. And that's a new product that we recently added to our portfolio and is in pre-order right now if people are interested. But I think it's, taking this approach, this holistic approach inside and outside to managing your health, I think it's essential.
I want to ask my final question now. And that's, living a life ever forward. Those two words, what does that mean to you? But I would love to kind of get your interpretation through the lens of how do we do something, take this information now and apply it in a tangible way to take a step forward in life, to move ever forward, but really through that lens of longevity.
Well, when I think of ever forward, I am thinking about longevity, but health span, and how can you take a holistic view on your life as you go forward to maintain an optimal health. Getting that right combination of fitness and exercise on a regular basis, eating the right foods, and then taking the right supplements. And particular, we've been talking about mitochondria today. I'm a firm believer that, if you improve your mitochondrial function, it's going to be super important for your longevity and living ever forward and being active as you get older. So for me, it's all about the combination of those and focusing on trying to improve your mitochondrial function to stay at your peak throughout your life.
There's never a right or wrong answer. I appreciate everyone's interpretation, so thank you for that. Wholeheartedly agree. And we're going to have all of your information and timeline and all the amazing research and products you guys have available down in the show notes and video notes for everybody. If you want to learn more and even try it, like I said, Timeline, we're now partnering on the show. You can head to timelinenutrition.com/everforward. You'll see your boy up there giving my little spiel about why I love Timeline, but also the amazing products and education available as well. You can get a nice discount on your product as well. So thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Jason.
Yeah.